Welcome to the Ingress Insights podcast, hosted by PkmnTrainerJ. Ingress Insights is a podcast about the Niantic game Ingress. Listen each week for the latest news, updates and rumours. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a voice message or emailing us at the links in the show notes.
Additional intel available.
Hello agents and welcome to episode 84 of the Ingress Insights podcast. In this week's episode we're going over the EMEA skirmish results, what happened on Toasty Day, and a few details linked to an app update, and then looking at who the new Niantic Wayfarer ambassadors are whilst we wait for the Ingress player ambassador program to start. We've at least got the Wayfarer ambassadors rotating around. I do have a few little gameplay bits and other bits before I get into the main Anomaly news, so I'll cover those off firstly. You might have seen on your podcast feed that there was a bonus episode that dropped on the 28th of February. This is one of the evergreen kind of style bonus episodes that I will be dropping at the end of every month, so I've recorded a few so far that will just go in at the end of the month. They're just bonus episodes, not regular episodes. They are a bit shorter, so the Kinetic Capsule episode was only 5 minutes. So I do hope you listen to that one as well and learn a bit more about Kinetic Capsules if you need to. Secondly, I want to get into my own gameplay in Ingress this past week. So I passed the 4 million AP mark, so I need another, less than 1 million now to level up to level 14. So level 15 and then to 16 and onwards, and then recurse again for the third time. I still don't have a particular badge that I'm aiming for. I didn't bother doing any more missions, so it'll just be see what I'm close to when I get nearer 16 and then aim at that. And then thirdly, I think we're on 3. I've mentioned in previous podcasts that I was going to do an interview with Erin Fitzgerald, who played Carrie Campbell at Ingress's live events. That's now all been recorded. Erin was fantastic. I just need to edit it, go and get Erin's approval, and then it'll be posted at some point. I'll let you know when that's coming up. Then finally, for non-Niantic game stuff or non-Ingress stuff, I've been tracking how much each Niantic game makes in downloads and revenue each month. I've decided to put that in a channel called Niantic Game Stats. So it'll show how many downloads Ingress got, for example, in December and January at the moment, and how much revenue they made. And then it'll tell you in the following months whether that was more or less, whether got more revenue, more downloads or whatever. It'll also cover Pikmin Bloom, Peridot, Monster Hunter Now, Pokemon Go. And it should be updated kind of mid-month. So at the moment you can see stats there for January and December. And then February should be kind of 15th of March, 16th of March kind of time when they'll be available. So if you're interested in it, you can follow that on there and then use the stats in whatever way you want to. But that's all I've got for news that doesn't really fit anywhere else. So I'll move on now to the Anomaly news with the EMEA skirmish results and seeing where we are so far with the score.
What's up? This is Smooth Guy O, and you listen to the Ingress Insight podcast.
The skirmishes on the 1st of March have recently finished in the EMEA region, so I'll go through those and let you know the total points and the score so far. My usual apologies if I pronounce any of these cities or places incorrectly. So in Izmir, Turkey, the Enlightened got 9 shards, Resist got 11. So that meant 6.3 points to Enlightened, 7.7 to Resistance. In Tallinn, Estonia, Enlightened got 5 shards, Resist got 14. So that's 3.5 points there to Enlightened, 9.8 to Resistance. In Augsburg, Germany, it was 12 shards to Enlightened versus 7 to Resistance. So that's 8.4 points to Enlightened, 4.9 to Resistance. In Copenhagen in Denmark, it was 7 shards to Enlightened, 10 to Resistance, so 4.9 to Enlightened, 7 to Resistance. In Nantes, France, it was 12 shards to Enlightened, 3 to Resistance, so 8.4 to Enlightened, 2.1 to Resistance. Seville in Spain was an even split, so 11 shards to each faction, which means 7.7 points for both the Resistance and the Enlightened. In Stockholm, it was 13 shards to Enlightened versus 8 to Resistance, so that's 9.1 points to Enlightened, 5.6 to Resistance. In Wrocław, Poland, it was 8 shards to Enlightened and was just behind with 7. So it's 5.6 to Enlightened and 4.9 points to Resistance. And then the final shard skirmish was in Belfast, UK, and that was 6 shards to Enlightened, 11 to Resistance, so 4.2 points to enlightened, 7.7 to resistance. There were also 4 beacon operations, so from there in Yerevan, Armenia, it was 139 beacon points to enlightened, 153 to resistance. So that's 3.5 season points to enlightened versus 3.8 to resistance. In Kaunas, Lithuania, it was 286 beacon points to enlightened, 376 to resistance. So that's 7.2 points to enlightened, 9.4 to resistance. Brussels in Belgium was pretty close. It was 308 points to enlightened and 314 points to resistance. So that meant 7.7 season points to enlightened and 7.9 to resistance. And then finally in Oslo, Norway, it was 230 beacon points to enlightened versus 285 to resistance. So that meant 5.8 season points to enlightened versus 7.1 season points to resistance. So overall, it was very close. It was 82.2 points to enlightened from the skirmish, but resistance did win the EMEA skirmish with 85.6 points. As I say, it was very close. You saw there with the scores, lots of them were equal or nearly equal. So it seems like it was a hard fought battle on both sides. This means that at the moment, the current score for the Plus Alpha Anomaly series overall is 588.8 points to enlightened versus 392.1 points to resistance. We do still have battle beacons, bounty blitzes coming up, and skirmishes. So you'll be able to turn the tides and see how that plays out on there. So still all to play for Plus Alpha, and then we'll see what happens at the end of it if we get any additional lore or anything happens as a result of who wins this series. There's a few other little bits of Plus Alpha news that are coming up shortly. So next weekend sees the Plus Alpha skirmish in the APAC regions. I've shared the location of those on a previous podcast. And then the following weekend after that is the Plus Alpha skirmish in the AMER region. And then finally on the 22nd of March, it's the XM Anomaly in Nepal. And that'll be our final one. We'll get the final score there and see what happens. Then the last bit of Plus Alpha news that I've got is that now the Niantic Project Archives re-release of the Devra Bogdanovich 2019 medal is in the store. That's the usual price that we expect now at 30,800 CMU. Comes with the usual fracas and kinetic capsules. So if you do want to pick that up from the store, that's there until the 14th of March. And they do all come back on the 22nd of March to the 31st of March if you do miss them. So now I'll move into the regular Ingress related news.
This is Jessica Jung, lead producer of Peridot, and you're listening to Ingress Insights.
On to Ingress news. We got a new update for the Ingress app on the 27th of February. We're now on version 2.161.1. So they mentioned they fixed rendering issue covering the media management screen, fix issue with new access level screen being too dark, fix overlapping menu items on the kinetic capsule screen, and on Android only some Google Play Integrity API settings were updated, so that meant agents could log on. One additional update that was mentioned is that the text for the descriptions changed from being left bound to center bound, so you'll notice all the text on the art and description is now centered. And the German translation also receives some updates which fix various translations. So if you play in German, everything should now make sense. It shouldn't be poorly translated. I'm not sure how it is in other languages, but I'd be interested to hear if things are translated a bit weirdly. Guessing some of them are, but it seems if you play in German, everything should display correctly now at least. Also on the 27th of February, we had Toasty 2025, where you could complete some assignments and toast beacons, as well as getting the Toast Day 2022 medal if you didn't already have it, buying it from the store. The bounties were fairly straightforward, so it was completing 3 bounties to get the final prize, and capturing any 40 portals got you 3 toast beacons, deploying 50 portal mods got you 2 toast beacons, deploying 70 resonates got you 1 toast beacon, and then if you complete all 3 of those, you got an extra 5 toast beacons. It just ran all day basically from midnight on February 27th, wherever you were in the world, until 11:59 PM. Views on it were a bit mixed as to whether it was useful, whether it was better than the Valentine's Day one. I think it was useful for any agents who were newish to the game. Maybe they've not had a beacon before, don't understand what they really are and why they should be getting them. And usually beacons are premium items, so it's nice for agents to be able to earn some and then use them. That being said, I'm probably hanging on to about 40 toast beacons currently. I've not used many of them, but I do try and use them at anomalies and things like that when I go, just to use them up and show them off, because I think that's mainly what they're there for, as beacons. This final part is jumping back a little earlier, so this was on the 25th of February. The Ingress Telegram channel put out that the NIA is aware of and currently investigating latency issues. These did get fixed pretty quickly. I think it was about 15-20 minutes after they'd put up the message, they said it was sorted. But at the same time, I do kind of wonder what they were changing behind the scenes and what's happening, because obviously last time there was an issue with missions where they didn't work and then severe latency issues. So maybe they're working on something. I doubt it's fit rewards. That'd be nice. But there's lots of other requests agents have made that it would be nice if they're working on that. It might just be just teething issues when they're doing new updates and things like that. But there seems to be a few issues behind the scenes where things aren't quite working right, and maybe they're working on something else. Maybe it'll amount to nothing. I don't know. But I just wanted to share it. And then that's all I've really got for Ingress related news. So I'll move on to some Wayfarer related news and mention the new Wayfarer ambassadors we've got coming in.
This is Shimon, former community manager for the Witcher Monster Slayer, and you're listening to Ingress Insights.
On the 28th of February, Niantic TNT posted on the Wayfarer community forums welcoming the latest cohort of Wayfarer ambassadors. So this is cohort 4. I'll link to the thread and you can read through their introductions and see Testone's graphics that you made. But just to give a whole list of them, they are Alice Wonder 1511, Timbleton, Grandpa TP, Freaks, which is FR34KZ, Le Final Boss, Testone 1 Valdis, Agent X1976, Miss Mitos 12, Sem the Beast, Let's Roll Girl, and the Prime Oracle. Some of those names might sound familiar to you if you've paid attention to Wayfarer. So some of the original Cohort 1 Wayfarer ambassadors have come back and reapplied and been successful in becoming part of Cohort 4. So obviously they'll have a wealth of knowledge from their previous time in the Wayfarer Ambassador Programme, and then obviously they've had some time off where they've been Ambassador alums, and they'll now continue as Cohort 4. So some of them are Cohort 1 as well as Cohort 4, if that makes sense. But as I say, I'll link to the thread you can read through and see all the details there, see intros, and then discuss things further on the Wayfarer forums. I'm sure Wayspotters will cover it in more detail, so I'll link to their podcast as well. And then just as Cohort 1 retired when Cohort 3 came in, this means Cohort 2 will be retiring, which is including myself. So they'll move to Ambassador alumni status as Cohort 1 did before. So as a reminder, Cohort 2 of the Wayfarer ambassadors who have now done 2 years of service, I suppose, for Wayfarer are Sea Princess HNB, Rowley, Kawin 240, Ace Randis, PkmnTrainerJ, who you hopefully know, I Frankmans, Zeno, Cine, Ellie Just Trying, Toku, One Chino, and Luke All Stars. As is mentioned in various posts, and I've mentioned there are some familiar faces joining Cohort 4 from Cohort 1, so maybe some of Cohort 2 will be back for Cohort 5, but who knows, they may want to take a rest, decide they're fed up with Wayfarer and want to take some time. There may not be the last you hear of those names when it comes around to Cohort 5 in 2026. It'll be here before we know it. I might in future, when I officially move to Ambassador alum status, do a short little podcast about retiring basically from the Ambassador program, and then whether I think I'll reapply for Cohort 5, I don't know as yet, or whether it'll be open to me. But for now, happy to kick back a little bit in regards to Wayfarer, I think, when it comes to moving to Ambassador alum status. Before I carry on, I do want to say congratulations to those in Cohort 4. I hope you do have a great time during your Wayfarer ambassadorship. You can always ping me if you need anything, but obviously you won't be able to discuss anything that's NDA. But happy to help support where I can if needed. But you've got great support in Cohort 3 and obviously the returners from Cohort 1. So I don't think you really need me, but it's there if needed. What I wanted to mention next isn't really Wayfarer news. There's no link or anything to go to it. I'm just curious at the moment, given that we're now on the 1st of March as I'm recording, about the Q1 Wayfarer challenge and when that'll be and what form it will take, because obviously we had the edit challenge before of submitting edits, and then we've had review challenges in the past. We've also had challenges where they've just been limited to Pokemon Go only and certain countries, like with the Brazil challenge. I hope we don't get more of those, but I'm curious to see what form the next Wayfarer challenge takes and basically how I can earn my next level of OPR live and get the badge tick on there. That's the main thing that I'm aiming for. I do love the free items and stuff, but I enjoy getting the OPR live tick and seeing that come in. So I'm hoping we get that announced in the coming weeks, because obviously it's got to last a certain amount of time before the end of March as well. So for now, I don't know anything. I'd advise keeping an eye on the forums to see when anything does come up. And when that gets announced, I'll share it on here, obviously. To wrap up this section, I've got something that's not really Wayfarer related, but didn't really fit in anywhere else, so I'm showing it here at the end. A few days ago, all the Niantic Web Stores went down, so that was Pokemon Go, Pikmin Blue, Monster Hunter Now. They have a web store where you can buy goods for a discounted price. You don't have to go through the Google Play pricing or the Apple Store pricing. All this is done through their partner of Xsolar. They manage their payments and things like that. They possibly manage the websites for them as well. Ingress currently doesn't have a web store. It stands out as a bit of a, I can't think of the term, it stands out a bit by itself when showing that there's no web store for Ingress where you could buy cheaper CMU, things like that. So I wonder, with all the changes that's happened with like missions and latency, things like that going down, they're trying to negotiate something and get a web store up. That'd be nice before things possibly change. I talked about the Scopely thing in the last episode, which I don't think is likely to happen, but it'd be great to have an Ingress web store where I could purchase those things. So it's all just ringing around in my head at the moment. So I just want to get it out there and see what your thoughts are as well on, did it have anything to do with it? Was it just Xsolar was having some issues? I'm happy to hear any thoughts you have on it. And then I'm going to move in and get things wrapped up for this week.
Hi, this is HP Bulola, and you're listening to the Ingress Insights podcast.
Thank you, agents, for listening to another episode of the Ingress Insights podcast. In next week's episode, we're going over the second Sunday that will be happening then, as well as the Plus Alpha skirmish that will happen in the APAC region, and seeing what the scores are like and where we're at with the overall Plus Alpha scores at that point. As we are in March now, we should start to get towards when we get details revealed for Plus Theta. I don't think that will be next week, but probably after the AMER skirmish, we might get something before the final Plus Alpha Anomaly series. And we'll likely have another app update probably before I do the next episode of this show. I doubt it'll have anything amazing in it, but I will cover it and see what updates we do get on there. Again, thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a great Sunday. Be hacking. Thank you, agents, for listening to the latest episode of the Ingress Insights podcast. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can do that on a few channels. So on Threads under the name ingress.insights, on Instagram under the name ingress.insights as well. Our Twitter/X, which posts episodes of the podcast, is under Ingress Insights, no dot in that one. And you can also watch these episodes on YouTube under Ingress Insights Podcast. You can send us a voice message by visiting the podcaster's Spotify page. And finally, you can buy Ingress Insights merch, such as mugs, pins, t-shirts, by going to freepublic.com/user/ingress-insights. And on there, you'll see all the designs that we've got listed at the moment. There are some new ones that will be coming up at some point soon. But you can buy your Ingress Insights mug, hats, t-shirts, tote bags, anything like that you want. Thank you again for listening. Hope you tune in next week. If you do like the show, please do rate it on the podcast service you're listening to. I look forward to speaking with you all about Ingress again.
Intel package transferred.